AEW Rampage Results January 21, 2022 Jon Moxley vs Ethan Page. From there, we are told that a man returning to the ring will be kicking things off this evening. Wild Thing plays and out comes Jon Moxley with his custom ring entrance. He tosses a steel chair into the ring as he approaches the ringside area. He settles in the ring and his music dies down. After that, the theme hits to bring out the Men of the Year. Scorpio Sky accompanies All Ego Ethan Page out to the ring, but stops and after wishing him good luck, he heads to the back while Page heads to the ring. Once in the ring, he poses for the fans who boo him and then the bell sounds. The two circle and lock up and then Mox backs him into a corner. Page shoves him down to escape and the fans boo as he throws up the arrogant double biceps pose. We see the two trade chops and then Mox takes over, chopping the hell out of Page. He follows that up with a running back elbow. He gets Page in the corner and bites away at his head, which brings the crowd to its feet. Mox charges to splash onto Page in the corner, but runs into a big boot. Page then puts said boots to him and shoulder tackles him through the ropes and out to the floor. He gives the fans another cocky double biceps pose. They boo him as he exits the ring to follow up on Mox. When the two go at it on the floor at ringside, Mox shifts the momentum back in his favor and then rams Page into the steel guard rail. He rolls Page back into the ring and stops to acknowledge the cheers from the fans. This backfires on him, as Page catches him coming through the ropes and begins going to work on him. As both settle into the ring, Page begins to take back over, settling into the offensive lead. He works over Mox with big right hands as he's laid out across the ropes. Mox turns the tables again and shoulder rams Page in the corner a few times. He whips him across the ring and looks to do the same, but again Page reverses the momentum as we head to a mid-match commercial break. We're back from the break and the first thing we see is Mox in the air with Page looking to hit the Ego's etch. Instead, Mox escapes and takes back over on a fence. He hits two big back suplex throws, bouncing Page off his head twice in a row. He goes for a third and Page tries to fight it off initially, but ultimately Mox hits it. He follows up with a big clothesline in the corner but misses the King Kong lariat follow-up. Page starts to fire shot for shot with Mox. It goes well for him at first, and then the two start trading legit slaps to the face back and forth. This lasts longer than you'd expect, but eventually Mox takes the offensive lead. He hits a big lariat, the same one that he missed earlier. The fans chant his name as Mox hoists Page up for the paradigm shift. Page avoids it and connects with a roundhouse kick of his own. He follows that up with a brainbuster for a close near fall. The action continues and then Mox ends up connecting with a wild elbow tope suicida on the floor. He rolls Page back in the ring and climbs to the top rope. Page blasts him with a shot and climbs up after him. He hoists Mox over his shoulder and leaps off the middle rope with a big avalanche power slam. He's slow to make it over for the cover, so Mox counters and rolls Page up. He doesn't get the pin but begins elbowing the hell out of him. He locks in the bulldog choke and Page taps out. Mox wins in his comeback match to kick off tonight's Rampage. After the match he celebrates and as Page gets up, Mox fires a boot in his direction and then hits him with another finishing move before exiting the ring and heading to the back. Winner, Jon Moxley. After the match, Bryan Danielson confronts Jon Moxley. Once the post-match scene in the ring wraps up, Mox exits through the crowd the same way he entered to the ring. However, right before he passes through the curtain to get into the backstage area, Bryan Danielson comes out and stands behind him. Mox backs up into the American Dragon, and turns around to see him applauding him sarcastically. Mox rolls his eyes and heads to the back to end the segment. Jurassic Express are coming to stomp some heads. We then shoot to a backstage interview where AEW World Tag Team Champions Jurassic Express are shown. Jungle Boy begins talking about their scheduled title defense coming up. He claims they're not only looking to win, but stomp in their opponents' heads. We head to a commercial break after this. Nick Jackson vs. Trent. When we return from the break, we hear the sounds of the theme song of the Young Bucks. With that said, out comes Nick and Matt Jackson, as it is time for the scheduled singles match featuring Nick Jackson. Nick heads out along with his brother and Brandon Cutler. They stop and do their trademark pose together before the trio all heads down to the ring. Nick plays to the crowd and gets some boos as we prepare for our second match of the evening. As the special live edition of Rampage continues, Jackson's theme fades down and then the music for his opponent, Trent of the Best Friends, begins playing. He makes his way out accompanied by Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, Chris Statlander, and Wheeler Yuta, all of whom stop and wish him well before heading to the back. Cassidy appears to continue to remain out in the arena. The rest did head to the back, but the freshly squeezed one will be watching this one up and close. The bell sounds in the ring and we're off and running with this one. Trent backs Jackson into a corner and gives him a clean break, but not before taunting him. Nick fires up after that, and grabs Trent's hand. He walks the ropes and hits a high spot before following up with some mat work. Trent turns the tables and takes over, launching Jackson out of the ring. He goes for a Northern Lights and it backfires due to his recent spinal fusion surgery. From there, Jackson takes over again and starts picking up the pace. He uses his speed and quickness to take the offensive reins and then hits a drop kick on Trent through the ropes, followed by a neck breaker. The last move sends Trent out to the floor. The commentators point out that he is focusing his attack on the surgically repaired neck of the Best Friends member as we head to a mid-match commercial break. As we settle back in from the break, we see Jackson taunting the fans from the top rope before leaping off. His landing, however, didn't go as planned, as he crashes down onto the raised knees of Trent. The fans rally behind Trent as he begins to take over on offense. After that, Trent enjoys some offensive success, but it doesn't last long, as Jackson quickens the pace in the ring and begins taking over again. He hits a big spot on the floor but that doesn't bode well for him, as he takes a bad landing on his own neck and spends some time on the ground recovering. Finally, the action resumes inside the ring, however it is Jackson who is the fresher of the two. He hits a big spot but then Trent shifts the momentum once again. He blasts him with some chops and as Trent hits the ropes to build up a head of steam, he charges into the referee, as Jackson pulled the match official in front of himself as a shield. Both guys end up knocking each other down moments later. The ref begins his count as both guys slowly make it back to their feet. Jackson hits a destroyer and goes for the cover, but only gets two. The crowd bit into that as the finish, but this one continues. The fans break out into a "This is awesome" chant. Jackson goes for a super kick but Trent avoids it and hits a back release suplex. Jackson gets up and does hit a super kick this time, but Trent brushes it off and knocks Jackson down hard before following up with a big pile driver for a super close near fall. We hear the fans booing as Jackson crawls and slides out of the ring under the bottom rope. Trent follows out after him and looks for a power bomb or another pile driver, but Jackson instead hits a back body drop. He climbs to the top rope and launches himself onto the entrance aisle, connecting with a swanton splash on Trent in the process. He rolls him in the ring and climbs back up to the top. He goes for a 450 splash and hits it, but only gets two on the pin attempt. Moments later Trent hits his finisher and gets the pinfall victory. Winner, Trent. Mercedes Martinez and Thunder Rosa hype rivalry. As the show continues, we head to a vignette hyping up a rivalry in the women's division. Mercedes Martinez appears and talks about having issues with Thunder Rosa. Rosa is then shown and she fires back with a response. Martinez calls herself an OG and then Rosa speaks back in Spanish. The video package wraps up and then the latest in-ring appearance by Hook is advertised as our next bout of the evening. Before that, however, we head to another commercial break. Hook vs Serpentico. When we return from the break, the sounds of Action Bronson fill the arena as Hook makes his way out and heads down to the ring for his latest match. The cold-hearted handsome devil catchphrase / moniker is given the hard sell treatment by the commentary team as the fans in DC chant his name with passion and enthusiasm. He settles into the ring where his opponent Serpentico is already in the ring for what will be his first live match, as his proud Pops Taz points out. Hook goes right after the masked man as soon as the bell rings and we're off and running. Hook takes the offensive lead straight out of the gate, and after a few suplexes and throws, we see him lock in a standing version of his Red Rum finisher. Serpentico taps out and Hook picks up another easy, dominant victory here on Rampage. Winner, Hook. After the match, QT Marshall confronts Hook. Once the match wraps up, QT Marshall heads out on a microphone and talks trash about Hook not being respectful. He criticizes his father, laughing at that fact as Hook exits the ring, ignoring him. As Hook tries to walk past him, Marshall grabs his arm and turns him around, telling him not to walk away from him. Hook turns and Marshall says he's gonna try and cheap shot him with a punch like last week. Instead, he turns Marshall inside out with a big suplex and then dumps him on his head before heading to the back. Mark Henry's pre-main event interview. We then shoot backstage where Mark Henry is standing by for his customary pre-main event split-screen interview. He talks to Jade Cargill and Anna Jay about their TBS women's title match. Cargill talks first and gloats, before Anna Jay reacts and talks about the street fight she had changing her. She says now she chokes bitches out and then uses a turn of phrase to flip Cargill's "that bitch show" catchphrase on her. The segment closes with Henry saying his "enough talk" catchphrase, which John Silver of the Dark Order, who is standing by Anna's side, does it with him. It's main event time. TBS Women's Championship, Anna Jay vs Jade Cargill. See, as soon as the pre-main event split-screen interview conducted by the World's Strongest Man wraps up, we are treated to the ring entrance of Anna Jay. She makes her way down to the ring accompanied by John Silver. She settles into the ring and her music fades out. From there, the theme for the champion hits and out comes Jade Cargill accompanied by smart Mark Sterling. The champ settles into the ring and the ring announcer handles the pre-match ring introductions for this, a championship contest. The bell sounds and we're off and running with this one. Early on, we see Jay looking determined, but determination doesn't do her much good, as Cargill hoists her up and dumps her on her dome. As she gloats, however, Jay gets her from behind and finally gets in some offense. We see Cargill knock Jay out to the floor. John Silver walks over and backs off Sterling. Cargill sees this and she moves Sterling and she gets in Silver's face. The two tease a showdown and then Jay comes from behind Silver and drops her with a big shot as we head to a mid-match commercial break. When we return from the break, we see Cargill landing a running back elbow on Jay in the corner. She goes for another but runs into a heel kick from Jay. Jay follows up by locking in a Queenslayer choke on Cargill outside the ropes. Cargill drops down and guillotines Jay over the top rope in the process to buy herself some time. Back in the ring now, Jay takes over on the offense and lets out a war scream as she charges and blasts Cargill in the corner. She hits another few heel kicks and then a big flatliner on Cargill. She lets out another war scream before looking to secure the Queenslayer once again. Mark Sterling hops on the apron to provide a distraction, so Silver runs over and takes him out. After watching this, Jay turns around as Cargill tries hitting a cheap shot. Instead, Jay catches her with a shot coming in. Cargill counters after that and goes for the finish, but Jay escapes it and locks in the Queenslayer. John Silver is seen jumping up and down on the floor as she squeezes away. Cargill ends up running herself back first into the corner, smashing Jay in the process to free herself. Once in the corner, Jay climbs up and locks the Queenslayer back in. Cargill eventually uses brute strength to break the grip of the challenger. She then gets her in position for her finisher. Jay escapes but Cargill hits her with a one-arm power bomb and then hooks her and hits her jaded finisher to get the pinfall and retains her title in the process. We see her daughter celebrating her win in the crowd as the commentators plug matches for next week's Beach Break special edition of Dynamite. Jay is helped to the back by Silver as she continues her celebration in the ring. That's how this week's show goes off the air. Thanks for joining us. Winner and still TBS Women's Champion, Jade Cargill.